الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن من شيعته لإبراهيم إذ جاء ربه بقلب سليم إذ قال لأبيه وقومه ماذا تعبدون أئفكا آلهة دون الله تريدون فما ظنكم برب العالمين فنظر نظرة في النجوم فقال إني سقيم فتولوا عنه مدبرين فراغ إلى آلهتهم فقال ألا تأكلون ما لكم لا تنطقون فراغ عليهم ضربا باليمين فأقبلوا إليه يزفون قال أتعبدون ما تنحتون والله خلقكم وما تعملون قالوا ابنوا له بنيانا فألقوه في الجحيم فأرادوا به كيدا فجعلناهم الأسفلين صدق الله مولانا العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وأزواجه وذرياته وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيم Verily, from his followers was Ibrahim alayhis salām. It was mentioned in last week's lesson that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from this third ruku' of Surah As-Saffat begins to mention the incidents of various prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam. And first of all, Hazrat Nuh alayhis salatu wassalam's incident was mentioned, which was discussed in last week's lesson. Moving on, the second prophet which has been discussed in Surah As-Saffat is Sayyiduna Ibrahim alayhis salatu wassalam. Between Hazrat Adam alayhis salam and Hazrat Nuh alayhis salam, there was a period of approximately 2000 years. And from Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, there was a period of 2640 years. And during this time of 2640 years, between Nuh alayhi salam and Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah Ta'ala only had sent 2 Rasuls. The first being Hazrat Hud alayhi salam, who was sent to his nation Ad, wa ila Adin akhahum Huda. And the second being Hazrat Salih alayhi salam. He was sent to the nation of Thamud. Wa ila Thamud akhahum Salihah. So you had Nuh alayhi salam, thereafter Hazrat Hud alayhi salam, and thereafter Hazrat Salih alayhi salam, and now Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. Regarding Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here in the first verse that وَإِنَّ مِن شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ, that verily from his followers, meaning from the followers of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, the previous prophet which was discussed. So from the followers of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam was Ibrahim alayhi salam. This word Shia, it refers to those who adhere to another individual's beliefs, ideologies, ways, a follower. And the reason why Allah Ta'ala mentions here that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam was from the followers of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam is because as far as the fundamental beliefs are concerned, believing in one Allah, believing in life after death, believing in the Prophet of Allah Ta'ala, the books of Allah Ta'ala, the angels, taqdeer, that whatever good or bad happens in the world, it's all from Allah Ta'ala. In these fundamental beliefs, all the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, they all had the same beliefs. So they were all from the same Shia, from the same ideology. But as far as Ibrahim alayhi salam is concerned, then when you go into the commands of Sharia, the branches of the Sharia, which differed in the different Shariats of the different prophets, that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam's Sharia was very similar to the Sharia of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. So Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ مِن شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ, that indeed Ibrahim alayhi salam was from the followers of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Meaning not only was he the same when it came to the fundamental beliefs, but even those branches of Sharia which differed in the different Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam Shariats, they were very similar in the Sharia of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam as well as Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. And thereafter Allah Ta'ala begins to mention regarding Ibrahim alayhi salam that إِذْ جَاءَ رَبَّهُ, remember the time when he came to his Rabb, بِقَلْبٍ salim, with a sound, pure heart. Now when does a person go to his Rabb? A person goes to his Rabb when he wants to worship his Rabb. This is the meaning of going to your Rabb. You worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam worshipped me, then he worshipped me biqalbin salim, with a pure heart, with a sound heart. What is the meaning of biqalbin salim? So there are two meanings to this. The first meaning is that when a person worships, then this worship should be free from shirk, from ascribing partners with Allah Ta'ala. If a person worships, but he is committing shirk, he is ascribing partners with Allah Ta'ala, then this belief, this ibadah, this worship will not be accepted by Allah Ta'ala. So number one, the first quality of Ibrahim alayhi salam's ibadah and worship was that it was free from shirk. He was not worshipping any of the other idols which was prevalent in that time. Ibrahim alayhi salam, his own father, used to make idols and sell idols. And the entire community was a community of idol worshippers. But in this environment, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam grows up with this belief that there is only one Allah who is worthy of worship. So he is worshipping Allah alone without paying any attention whatsoever to those idols which the rest of the community were worshipping. So his worship was completely free from shirk. But together with this, there's also a second point which a person has to keep in mind for his ibadah to be accepted. And this is that just as you do not have in your mind or heart any other deity besides Allah when you are worshipping, your intention must also be solely to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not anyone else. Which is called ikhlas, which is called sincerity. And this is also a form of shirk. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentions, Inna yasira riya'i shirkun. That indeed, a slight amount of riya, ostentation, doing something to show others, this is also shirk. A person is performing salah, but inside his intention is that if I perform these 2 rakat salah with full concentration, all those who are watching me will begin to say, look at him, he's so pious. So that salah which was supposed to be for Allah, he is performing that salah for the people. A person performs salah every day in the front row without fail. And his intention is that I want to become the talk of the town. That everyone says that he is always in the masjid in the front row. This is shirk. A lighter form of shirk. But it's also a type of shirk. It's called riya, ostentation. When you do something to show others, which is supposed to be done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So the Quran announces that Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam's ibadah and worship was free from both types of shirk. He never worshipped Allah ta'ala together with other idols, and likewise he never worshipped Allah ta'ala to show people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself in the Quran says that قُلْ, that say, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. That indeed my salah, my hajj, my living and my dying is all for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the Lord of the worlds. So free from shirk as well, free from riya as well. إِذْ جَاءَ رَبَّهُ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَاذَا تَعْبُدُونَ. And after mentioning that Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, his motive was none other than Allah ta'ala. Whatever he did was solely to please Allah. Allah ta'ala now mentions that because he was the Prophet of Allah ta'ala, his mission was to call his people towards Tawheed and the oneness of Allah. Now both his father and his nation, because they were all involved in shirk, in ascribing partners with Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now mentions that Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, he went to his father and he went to his people. And he questioned them that ماذا تعبدون, what do you worship? أَإِفْكًا آلِهَةً دُونَ اللَّهِ تُرِيدُونَ? Do you desire to worship false gods instead of Allah? فَمَا ظَنُّكُمْ بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ? And then he further asked the people that what is your opinion about the Rabb of the universe? So in different places in the Quran we find how Ibrahim alayhis salatu was salam would go to his people and try to explain to them. We find in one place in Surah Maryam that وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. Allah Ta'ala says that mention regarding Ibrahim alayhis salam. He was the truthful prophet. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ, when he said to his father, يَا أَبَتِ لِمَ تَعْبُدُ مَا لَا يَسْمَعُ وَلَا يُبْصِرُ وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا. O my father, why do you worship that which doesn't listen, which doesn't see, and which doesn't benefit you in any way whatsoever? Ya abati, O my father, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilm. I have been blessed with knowledge from Allah Ta'ala regarding the correct deen, the correct way to worship. Ma lam ya'tika, such knowledge which you have not been granted. Fattabi'ni, so follow me. Ahdika siratan sawiya, I will guide you to the straight path. You should be happy that Allah Ta'ala has blessed your son with the correct knowledge. Ya abati la ta'budi shaitan. O my father, do not worship shaitan. Inna shaitana kana lirrahmani asiya. Because shaitan, he has disobeyed Rahman. He has disobeyed Allah. And if you were to worship shaitan, if you were to obey shaitan, then this means you will also be disobeying Allah Ta'ala. Ya abati, O my father, inni akhafu an yamassaka adhabun min ar-Rahman. I fear that a punishment from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will come down upon you. فَتَكُونَ لِلشَّيْطَانِ وَلِيًّا, and you will become the companion of shaitan. So look how he would explain to his father as well. And in Surah Al-Anbiya we find وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ وَكُنَّا بِهِ عَالِمِينَ إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ, when he said to his father and his people, مَا هَذِهِ التَّمَاثِيلُ الَّتِي أَنْتُمْ لَهَا عَاكِفُونَ. What are all of these deities which you have made with your hands and that you are worshipping? Now, when someone is on wrong and they are unable to give a answer, then one of the answers which we find throughout the different stages of history is that a person says that this is what we found our forefathers on. That until now, this is what my parents were doing, this is what my grandparents were doing, this is what my great-grandparents were doing. So when they were all doing this, who are you to come and now say that they were all wrong? So this is exactly the same words which we find in the Quran also. In many, many places in the Quran we find this. And the same can be found over here in Surah Al-Anbiya. That when Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, he posed this question to his people, what did they say? وَجَدْنَا آبَاءَنَا لَهَا عَابِدِينَ. They replied, we found our forefathers worshipping them. So if our forefathers were worshipping idols, then we will also continue in those same footsteps. And we also find in the 7th juz of the Qur'an, where Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, he takes a slightly different approach to try and show his people that there is only one Allah who is worthy of worship. So over there we find وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ آزَرَ أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً. That remember the time when Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam said to his father Azar, أَتَتَّخِذُ أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً. That do you take these idols as your deity? إِنِّي أَرَاكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Indeed, I see you and your nation in an open error. وَكَذَلِكَ نُرِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ مَلَكُوتَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And likewise, we showed Ibrahim alayhi salam the different creations of the heavens and the earth. Now, first of all, Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, he turned his attention towards the star. And he looks towards the star. فَلَمَّا جَنَّ عَلَيْهِ اللَّيْلُ رَآ كَوْكَبًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. And he says, this is my Rabb. He says it in a way that his people can hear, that this star is my Rabb. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ. But the star is not going to remain in the sky forever. Once the night finishes, the stars also disappear. So once the star disappears, فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَا أُحِبُّ الْآفِلِينَ. Ibrahim alayhi salam says that I do not like that thing which disappears. How can it be my Rabb or my Lord when it's going to disappear? A Rabb and an Allah is someone we need all the time. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الْقَمَرَ بَازِغًا قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Then when he sees the moon, Ibrahim alayhi salam says that this is my Rabb. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ قَالَ لَإِن لَّمْ يَهْدِنِي رَبِّي لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الضَّالِّينَ. But when the moon disappears, Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam says that if my Rabb had not guided me, then I would have also become from those who are astray. فَلَمَّا رَأَى الشَّمْسَ بَازِغَةً. Then when he sees the sun, قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي هَذَا أَكْبَرُ. He says, this is my Rabb. This is the greatest. It's bigger than the star also. It's bigger than the moon also. فَلَمَّا أَفَلَتْ. But at the time of Maghrib, even the sun sets and the sun disappears. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ إِنِّي بَرِيءٌ مِّمَّا تُشْرِكُونَ. So he says, oh my people, indeed I am completely free from that which you ascribe partners with. And who do I worship? إِنِّي وَجَّهْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّذِي فَطَرَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. That I have turned my attention towards that Allah who has created the heavens and the earth. And I am not from the mushrikeen. So in different ways we see how Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam explained to his father also and to his people also, that there is only one Allah who is worthy of worship. But they were extremely firm on their beliefs of shirk and ascribing partners with Allah and believing in idols. It so happens that that time of the year comes when they would all leave their town, and on the outskirts of the town they would all gather in a very large field, and here they would have their annual festival. Now, It was only a matter of time before they came to Ibrahim alayhis salam and they asked him that tomorrow or next week is the festival. You will be coming also, won't you? Now Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had devised a plan that when everyone goes towards the festival and there will be nobody left inside the town, this is when I am going to go to the temple and I am going to break up all the idols. And the reason for doing this is that when these people will return and they will see the idols are broken, then they will realize that these idols who we worship, look how helpless they are. So it wasn't like he was vandalizing the temple. Rather, he had a good motive behind why he was doing this. He wanted to try and embed in their minds that these idols are completely helpless. They cannot even look after themselves. How are they going to look after you? So they come to him and they ask him that the festival is going to take place. Will you be attending? So regarding this, Allah Ta'ala mentions in the next verse, verse number 88, that فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ فَقَالَ إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ. He glanced once at the stars and then said, I feel unwell. Now these two verses require some explanation. First of all, فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ. He glanced once at the stars. During the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, there was this type of belief, a way in which they would look at the stars, and after looking at the stars they would come to a conclusion as to what is going to happen in a person's life. Something we find even now. Astrology, the knowledge pertaining to stars. You have the star signs, the zodiac signs. Star signs, where people, they have a particular star sign compared to, depending on what months they were born in. And then you read in the newspapers or the magazines or whatever that according to this star sign, there's either going to be good luck for you in this month or bad luck for you. So what this is it depends on where the star is and the movement of the stars. And according to that, those people that have studied this particular science, they can then come to a conclusion that if the star is at this particular place, then something good will happen. If it's over here, then something bad will happen. It's a science in itself. Now, regarding this, these individuals in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, they used to believe in this. That when you look at the stars, then you can come to a conclusion as to what is going to happen in the future. And as far as we are concerned, it is not permissible for a person to believe in this. This is also shirk. Because our belief is that whatever good happens or whatever bad happens, it can only happen if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined for it to happen. And their belief was that depending on the stars, it's the star that will make this particular thing happen. Yes, we believe this much, that the stars can be a means. For example, the sun, when it rises, then we know that it's definitely going to be bright outside. It's going to be daytime. And when the sun sets, then it's definitely going to be dark outside. But we don't believe that it's the sun that gives the atmosphere the brightness or makes it dark. We believe this is from Allah Ta'ala. If Allah Ta'ala wants, even after the sun rises, He can keep it dark. And if Allah Ta'ala wants, even after the sun sets, He can keep the day bright. But the sun is the means. We believe the sun is the means. But the actual doer is Allah Ta'ala. But what they would believe is the actual doer is the stars and not Allah. So this was a belief which they had. Now, as far as this knowledge is concerned, Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he would mention regarding this knowledge of the stars that ta'allamu min al-nujum, that acquire the knowledge regarding the stars, ma tahtaduna bihi fil barri wal bahri thumma amsiku, that acquire that amount of knowledge through which you can travel on the land and travel in the sea. Thumma amsiku, thereafter stop. From this statement of Umar radiallahu anhu, we understand that there was a time when people could actually benefit from the stars when they would be traveling. They would use the stars. The Quran itself says that وَعَلَامَاتْ وَبِالنَّجْمِ هُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ, that through the stars people find guidance. So they are able to travel on the land as well as in the sea. So this amount of knowledge regarding the stars, regarding astrology, is something which is beneficial for the human being. Otherwise, how will a person travel? Obviously, in this day and age, technology has advanced so much. But when there was no technology, this was the way to know your route when you are traveling. So Umar radiallahu anhu in his time would say that acquire that amount of knowledge regarding stars so that you can carry out your journeys. Otherwise, how will we travel from one place to another? But once you have acquired this amount of knowledge, now this is the time to stop. Don't delve into it so much that you begin to study that part of the knowledge of stars and you become fascinated by it, that this actually tells me what will happen tomorrow and what will happen next week, and you begin to believe in it. In the hadith of Tabarani, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, إِذَا ذُكِرَتِ النُّجُومُ فَأَمْسِكُوا, that when knowledge pertaining to the stars is mentioned, then you should observe restraint. In other words, you shouldn't become so engrossed in it. Otherwise, it could take you to shirk if you start believing in it so much. And Mufti Shafi Sahib rahmatullahi alayhi Ma'arif al-Qur'an has mentioned a quotation of one of the Arabs of the past who would say that مَعْلُومُهُ غَيْرُ مُفِيدٌ وَمُفِيدُهُ غَيْرُ مَعْلُومٌ. He says that as far as this knowledge of the stars is concerned, it has two different parts to it. It has the beneficial part also, and it has the harmful part also. So he says, مَعْلُومُهُ غَيْرُ مُفِيدٌ. People have acquired the knowledge of the stars, that knowledge of the stars which is not beneficial for them. And وَمُفِيدُهُ غَيْرُ مَعْلُومٌ. That knowledge pertaining to the stars which is beneficial, people have left that to one side. And even today, this is the reality, that you will seldom find an individual who can say that I know that aspect of astrology and the knowledge of the stars through which I can travel from one place to another. That knowledge has been kept to one side. But you will find many who have dedicated their time and their lives in studying the star signs so that they can tell others about their future. So here Allah Ta'ala says, فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ. that Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam, he glanced once at the stars. Now the question arises that why did he glance at the stars when he never believed in this concept? He glanced at the stars and thereafter he said, Inni saqim, I feel unwell or I am going to feel unwell. Now, the reason why this is that you look at the star and then that gives you information that I am going to be unwell on the day of the festival. This is the meaning of these verses. But why would Ibrahim alayhi salam look towards the star and thereafter say I am going to be unwell when he never believed in this concept in the first place? So one opinion of the commentators is that this was merely a coincidence that he happened to look at the star at the time. It wasn't that he looked at the star to try and get information that am I going to be well on the day of the festival or not. It was just a coincidence that he looked at the star at that time. But the majority of the commentators of the Qur'an feel that although this answer can be given and there will be no question remaining if we give this answer, the glorious Qur'an is the book of Allah Ta'ala in which no word is going to be mentioned without a reason. If it was just a mere coincidence in the Qur'an, Allah Ta'ala would not be mentioning that he looked towards the star. So the answer which they give is that he looked towards the star because he knew that they believe in this concept that after looking at the stars you can come to a conclusion as to what is going to happen in the future. So he looked towards the star to convince them. Otherwise, if someone comes to you and says, are you coming to the festival? And they know that you are completely against them. And you say, I ain't feeling well. Straight, that's the most easiest excuse a person gives, that I don't feel well. They're going to know he's a liar. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu was salam felt that if I say I am not going to be well, what if they keep 5-10 people behind? Because before this he had already said, Tallahi la'akidanna asnamakum ba'da an tuwallu mudbirin, that I am going to destroy your idols. So if they would have remembered that, they would have known that this is a great opportunity for him. So he thought, in order to convince them, let me look towards the star. Now when I look towards the star and then I say I am going to be unwell, they will straight away believe that, yeah, look, he is looking towards the star. The very thing we believe in, he also believes in. So he is not a liar. But this still leaves a question that Ibrahim alayhi salam was the Prophet of Allah and he had come to teach people that these beliefs are incorrect. So whether he himself has the belief or not, when you carry out an action, actions speak louder than words. How is this going to eradicate this belief from their minds and hearts that we shouldn't believe in the stars? This is only going to make it more stronger and firm in their minds and hearts, that even Ibrahim alayhi salam looked towards the star. So the answer to this is that Ibrahim alayhi salam knew that very soon, as soon as they leave from here and they go towards the festival, I am going to do such a thing through which everybody is going to understand that there is only one being in whose control is everything, and that is Allah Ta'ala. This is going to become clear. So once that becomes clear, then even they will know that these stars do not have any control over us whatsoever. And as far as looking at the star at that particular time was concerned, this is something which is known as iham. Iham is when, due to a religious reason, a person does something physically in such a way that the person in front of him thinks he is doing one thing, whereas in reality he is doing something else. We find this in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. One of the strategies of his warfare was, when he would fight against the enemy, he would take the entire army towards one direction. Now the enemy would think that the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims are going to attack that side of the army, because the entire army is moving towards that direction. So this side of the army would relax, and suddenly the Prophet ﷺ would turn the entire army this way and they would attack. This is called iham, that physically you give an impression to another person that you are going to do one thing, whereas in reality in your mind you have something else. And if this is being done with a religious motive, then this is permissible. This is not deception. For example, in war, this is not going to be deception, this is going to be something permissible. So over here, Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he looked towards the star, the people got this impression that he has looked towards the star, and after looking at the star, he has come to this conclusion that on the day of the festival I am going to be ill. But Ibrahim alayhi salam just looked towards the star. In his mind, he wasn't thinking that I'm going to look at the star and then realize that I am going to be ill. So this is iham, that he looked towards the star, but he wasn't looking at the star with this in mind, that am I going to be well or ill on the day of the festival. This is the first verse. It's quite difficult, but I've tried to explain it. And now the next verse is فَقَالَ إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ. Now إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ can either mean I feel unwell or I am going to feel unwell. Straight away the question is, was Ibrahim alayhi salam unwell? One answer, this most simple answer which we can give is, yes, he was unwell. This is why he said he was unwell. In the Quran, we do not find any clarification that was he unwell, was he not unwell. So either he was unwell and he said inni saqi, or he wasn't unwell. We find in the hadith the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that Ibrahim alayhis salatu wassalam said that which was against the truth and against the reality on 3 occasions. Now the question arises straight away that did he lie? He was a prophet, and a prophet will not lie. So the answer to this is that just as I mentioned for looking at the star, that there is something called iham, that through your actions you give the person in front of you an impression that you are going to do one thing, whereas in reality you are going to do something else. In the same way, there is something called tawriyah. And tawriyah is that you say something with your tongue, again the person takes a different meaning and you have something else in mind. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is traveling with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu during the Hijrah migration. And the announcement has been made that if they are found either dead or alive, then for you is 100 camels. So one person who does not know who they are, when he sees them on the journey, he says to Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu that who is this man with you? Now if Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu says he is the Prophet of Allah, or he is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, their life is at risk. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu says that he is Hadin Yahdini as-Sabil. He is the guide who is guiding me to the straight path. So that person thinks that he is the guide. In those days you would have a guide when you would travel from one place to another. But Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu meant that he is my guide in Islam and guiding me towards Jannah. So this is called tawriyah. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he said, Inni saqim, I am ill, or I am going to be ill on the day of the festival, this was also tawriyah. Now either he was ill, but he wasn't that ill that he can't go to the festival. But he didn't say this. He didn't say that I am so ill that I will not be able to come. All he said is I am ill. And they thought to themselves that he means that he is so ill that he won't be able to come to the festival. This is tawriyah. Or that I am going to be ill. Inni saqim can also mean the future. I am going to be ill, and every person somewhere in their life before death will fall ill. Even if a person does not fall ill at all, just prior to death, those final few moments and final few seconds, this in itself will be an illness before a person dies. So he said, Inni saqim, that I am going to be ill. And they thought he was talking about the day of the festival. He meant that I will fall ill sometime in my life. So in that hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that 3 occasions Ibrahim alayhi salam did this in his life. And one of them was this. The second was that when he was traveling, then he was informed that your wife, Hazrat Sarah alayhis salam, she possessed exceptional beauty. And they had to get past the king. Now, if the king was informed that this woman is Ibrahim alayhis salam's wife, then the king would take her. So when they reached the king, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam is asked that who is this woman? So he replies that she is my sister in deen, or she is my sister. And what he meant by this is, he is my sister in deen, like we say sister in Islam. So even your wife, she is your sister in Islam, but she is not your actual biological sister. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said she is my sister, meaning she is my sister in deen, whereas biologically she was his wife. And the king did not understand this. So this was a second occasion where he used tawriyah. And the third occasion is going to come later on in this very incident, where they ask him that who carried out this action of breaking all our idols. So Ibrahim alayhi salam replies that it was this idol of yours, the biggest idol. Now obviously it wasn't the biggest idol, but the reason why Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam said this is to again put this in their minds that look, if this idol is unable to do anything, then why are you worshipping this idol? So if a person uses tawriyah for a religious reason, then this is permissible. So فَنَظَرَ نَظْرَةً فِي النُّجُومِ فَقَالَ إِنِّي سَقِيمٌ. So he said, I feel unwell. They believed him and they left. فَتَوَلَّوْا عَنْهُ مُدْبِرِينَ. They turned their backs on him and left. فَرَاغَ إِلَىٰ آلِهَتِهِمْ فَقَالَ أَلَا تَأْكُلُونَ. He hurried to their gods, and now first of all he begins to speak to these idols. So he says, أَلَا تَأْكُلُونَ. Do you not eat? No, they've all gone to the festival. They've left behind in front of you all these sweets. Why don't you eat them? مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنْتِقُونَ. What is the matter with you that you do not speak? فَرَاغَ عَلَيْهِمْ ضَرْبًا بِالْيَمِينِ. And he then turned to them, striking them with force. Al-Yamin can mean the right hand. So either he struck them with his right hand, or as was mentioned a few lessons ago, Al-Yamin can also mean force, because usually there is more power in the right hand. قُوَّةُ الرَّجُلِ فِي يَمِينِهِ. The power and the force of a man is in his right hand. So with force. فَأَقْبَلُوا إِلَيْهِ يَزِفُّونَ. The people came to him in haste. So they've returned now from the festival. So he said to them, قَالَ, he said, do you worship what you yourselves carve? وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ وَمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. Whereas Allah has created you and anything that you make. Over here there is only a hint towards this incident. And more of the details can be found in Surah Al-Anbiya in the 17th juz, where they question that man fa'ala hadha bi alihatina, who has done this with our gods? Innahu lamina al-zalimin, indeed he is from the oppressors. So qalu, they said, sami'na fatan, we have heard of a youth, yuqalu lahu Ibrahim, his name is Ibrahim. So they go to him and they say that anta fa'alta hadha bi alihatina ya Ibrahim, O Ibrahim, did you do this with our gods? So on that occasion he said, bal fa'ala, that rather it was him, kabiruhum hadha, this big one. Fas'aluhum, question him, in kanu yantiqun, if he talks. So faraja'u ila anfusihim, the Quran says that at that time they pondered over themselves and they said, innakum antumul zalimun, you are the ones who are the oppressors. Summa nukisu ala ru'usihim, they bowed down their heads in shame. Laqad alimta ma haula'i yantiqun, you know that these idols, they cannot speak. So even they knew, Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam's action was such that it made it crystal clear before them that these idols who we are worshipping, they cannot do anything. But again, it was that stubbornness, this belief that because our forefathers done it, so it must be correct. Or the pride and the arrogance that how can we listen to this one youth? There is this entire community who is saying one thing, and one youngster is saying do something different. So this ego was also stopping them. So these reasons became a hindrance between them accepting the truth. So instead of accepting the truth, قَالُوا بْنُوا لَهُ بُنْيَانًا فَأَلْقُوهُ فِي الْجَحِيمِ, they said, construct a building for him and cast him into a blazing fire. So a fire was lit, and such was the size of the fire, and it was so hot that if a bird would try to fly over it, then this bird would come down and it would burn. And nobody could get near the fire. So Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam was made to fly. He was flung from a very far distance and he was flung into this fire. But as soon as he was going to land into this fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْنَا, we said, يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, O fire, become a means of coolness and peace for Ibrahim alayhi salam. So this very fire which normally burns a person became a garden for Ibrahim alayhi salam. And Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam would then say that I found the most comfort and most peace during those days of my life when I was in that fire. So فَأَرَادُوا بِهِ كَيْدًا فَجَعَلْنَاهُمُ الْأَسْفَلِينَ, they devised a plot against him, we made them the ones to look down. So their plan failed, and Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was saved in this way. So in these verses, there is one incident of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam which has been mentioned. After this, Allah Ta'ala mentions a second incident regarding the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which inshallah we will try to discuss in next week's lesson. We make dua to Allah Ta'ala that He grants us the ability to understand the importance of this aqeedah and belief of tawheed and the oneness of Allah Ta'ala. We should be so grateful to Allah Ta'ala that we are able to believe in one Allah. Otherwise we see here that no matter how much a person tries to convince another individual, if hidayah and guidance is not written for this person, then nobody can guide him. Even a prophet cannot guide him. Look at how much effort Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam exerted in different ways. This was not that he wasn't doing this for himself, he was doing this for them, that they are saved from the punishment of the hereafter. So in different ways, he is putting his own life at risk as well, just so that they can accept this message of Tawheed and the oneness of Allah Ta'ala. But because Hidayah and guidance was not written for them, they were not able to accept the truth. We should always ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that, oh Allah, guide us and thereafter keep us on the straight path. And the true Hadi and the true guide is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The Prophet is not the true guide. The Alim is not the true guide. The Imam, the teacher, these are not the true guides. The true guide is Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala uses these individuals to guide people. It's like you have one person who wants to travel from here to London. So now there's two options. There's one person who will say to you that from here you need to take this road, thereafter this road, thereafter this road, thereafter this road. This is the route, and finally you will reach London. You can also call him a guide. And you have a second person. You say to him, how do I get to London? He says, sit in my car, I will take you. So the same example is between Allah Ta'ala and all the other guides. That all the other guides, they can only tell us that you need to do this to go to Jannah. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And Allah Ta'ala, He Himself puts us in the car and takes us to Jannah. So the real guide is Allah Ta'ala. But because we are human beings, we need this assistance and this help from other humans also. So we take this assistance and this guidance from people who show us the path. But after they show us the path, it's only Allah Ta'ala who can make us reach the destination. This is why in every rakat in salah we say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. So you make dua to Allah Ta'ala that He makes us from those individuals in whose hearts and minds Tawheed and the belief of the oneness of Allah Ta'ala is very firm, and never do we have any evil thoughts regarding this belief of Tawheed. Never do we feel inclined towards shirk or any form of shirk. May Allah Ta'ala save us from all types of shirk and ascribing partners with Him. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.